In conversation with Ka Hancock. Ka Hancock is the author of the beloved novel Dancing on Broken Glass, The DUZY House of Mourning, and the upcoming Ivy in Steels. Always intrigued by the human experience and how people navigate their unique challenges, Hancock began writing stories as a child. He discovered early that humanity is a tangled mystery, and in order to thrive in difficult relationships with fellow travelers, it helps to acknowledge their truth, then proceed accordingly. Kay loved to write about complicated relationships and perfect dynamics essentially life. She's a psychiatric nurse by profession, a writer by passion, a racer of responsible authoring by choice and determination, and she melts glass as a hobby. Defines people in how their complex and varied life completely fascinating. Kay lives happily in Utah in the shadow of the most beautiful mountain on earth with her husband, Mark. Their four children have multiplied at an impressive rate and now keep them busily engaged with a whole new generation. And on today's episode of Auto Interview, it's my utmost pleasure, joy, and excitement to have on the show today the impressive Kay Hancock. Welcome on the show, Kay.
Nice to be here. It's so nice to meet you.
Honestly, I'm so excited to have you today. Quite exciting. We're going to be having a conversation around your beautiful book. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. It's fun to be here.
Yeah. So, Kay, I would first say that I am impressed by your tons of already published literature works, but I would like us to start today's conversation with one that I found its description page on Amazon to be quite absorbing, and that's the one with the name of Dancing on Broken Glass. And I need to say that's such a beautiful, amazing, compelling, and uncommon title to give a book, yeah? And I would like to ask you how the book came about. What inspired you to write Dancing on Broken Glass? And how did you come up with this compelling title name too?
Well, I'm a psychiatric nurse, and Dancing on Broken Glass was my first novel.
Oh.
And it's about marriage. And the woman has a history of breast cancer, and
Oh.
the man has a history of mental health issues. And so there's a line in there that the psychiatrist of the man says that your marriage will be every marriage is a dance, but your dance will be on broken glass because they have unique challenges. And I loved that title, and it kind of just defines them that they love each other very very much, but they do have these unique challenges, and so it's about their relationship, and it's about them believing each other. He has a fear that he's going to lose her, and she has a fear that he's not going to be okay if he does lose her. And they are going to have babies, but she becomes pregnant. And
Mm.
so that adds element um, of a different challenge. And so the book is about dealing with two very significant issues. Um, and then she gets cancer a second time at the same
Mm.
time that she becomes pregnant. And he desperately wants her to have an abortion so she can proceed with treatment again. But she
Mm.
knows in her heart that she will not survive, and she wants to have this baby and for them to be a family for as long as they can. And so quite a wrinkle in their relationship, because he does not want to risk her life.
Mm.
But this baby ends up saving him, not her, but him.
Mm.
And it's it's a very he it's a very very poignant story about a marriage, but about mostly her belief in him. He
Mm.
has bipolar disorder.
Oh.
And my story really is about, sometimes we write off people that have mental illness, and there's no
Mm.
reason to do that. He
Mm.
thrives under her love, and he thrives as a father. Yes, he's going to have some problems, and he needs the support of his community and his friends, but he is an outstanding person, and she was able to see that from the very get-go. when she met him, he thought he was unworthy of her because of his diagnosis. That wasn't true. I don't think it's ever true. When we have challenges in our lives, doesn't make us unworthy of love.
Wow.
And that's pretty much that story.
I love your description of that book. It sounds to me to be quite amazing, quite pulling, and very compelling. And I need to say thank you so much for, giving us a snippet into it and sharing with us. I enjoy you talking
Cool.
about it. Thank you so much. And you also have another book in the name of The DUZY House of Mourning. Sometimes the purest love flow through broken heart, which again, I love the description when I read through it. And for readers now, for the sake of readers who haven't read this particular one yet, and without giving much information away, could we have a sneak of what we had expect in terms of themes and subject lines, picking up the Juicy House of Mourning?
Yeah. Now the Doozy House of Mourning, this in the very opening paragraph of this, an accident takes place. And it's a tragic accident that happens on New Year's Eve, and a couple are on their way to have a baby, and
Mm,
they're hit by a drunk driver, and the man is killed, and the
wow.
woman, she suffers a traumatic head injury and barely is kind of hanging on when she is able to give birth to this little girl. And um, as a result of this head injury, she loses her ability to communicate. And but she survives, and it's kind of a miracle how she survives, and I won't go into that. But the book starts 22 years later with this daughter that was born,
Mm,
and she doesn't have a relationship with this mother, much of a relationship with this mother, because
mm,
she is
mm,
dramatically disabled and she doesn't speak, and she doesn't know her very well. She's been raised by her grandparents, and
mm,
she doesn't know her. But the story is that January, my 22-year-old heroine,
yeah.
inherits a Steinway piano. And because her maternal grandmother, which is my head injury heroine,
Yeah.
that's her mother, she died.
Oh.
And so in the process, January inherits this piano. And the attorney that brings it to her, or brings her this news, says that, why don't you go to this house of your grandmother, and just anything that belonged to your mother you can have.
Yeah.
And in the process, she starts peeling away the layers of who her mother was.
Mm,
And again, she starts to discover who this woman was. And that's the Doozy House of Mourning. Um, and the love, sometimes love flows, the strongest love flows through broken hearts, is this mother
mm,
who's been just trapped behind this wall of non-communication, just adores her daughter. And when her daughter discovers who she is and how to communicate with her, all of this kind of just bursts through. This they become able to communicate with each other. And January discovers who her mother is, what she gave up for her, and what she's lived with her whole life.
oh, wow.
Watching his daughter from afar, grow up and really kind of disregard her.
Hmm.
But it ends well. I'll
Wow.
say that.
I love your take on that, and I particularly love the fact that you mentioned that the strongest love sometimes flow through broken heart, which is very, very true. Very, very
Yeah.
true. Quite relatable. Most instances people have experienced that and find it to be quite true. And before I proceed to my next question about your upcoming book in December, I would like you to show the couple we've talked about so far, dancing on broken glass to the camera, the Dulce House of Morning as well to the camera, just so it's what it looks like. Beautiful cover you've got in the Dancing on Broken Glass. Beautiful. Oh, I love the making of that. I love that it looks like an heart in there. And, is that a sleepers there?
It's nice. They did a really
Beautiful.
good job on that. That was published by Simon and Schuster for me.
Oh.
and they did a wonderful job. And then this is the Doozy House of Mourning.
Hmm.
And this
Interesting.
cover was made by a wonderful man in the UK.
Wow.
You'll probably run into him.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
and this
amazing
is
too.
beautiful. And so this is the Steinway.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Very pretty.
That's
Yeah.
very
And
amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you.
thank you for letting me show those off. I love them.
Yeah. Then you also have an upcoming book come December in the name of Ivy in Stills. Would you like to tell us about the making of that as well and what we should look forward to in the book?
Yeah, actually, I'm very excited about this one.
Yeah.
I my little Ivy. So I don't know if your readers are familiar with the geography of America,
Yeah, sure.
but Ivy Ivy is born on one coast in Savannah, Georgia, and her father lives in Monterey, California. So
Oh.
Ivy, it starts out with her wedding day, and she is her groom decides not to marry her on
Mm,
her wedding day, so it ruins her life. And her parents are not together, but her dad has come to the wedding, and
mm,
her mom wants her to go back with him to Monterey
mm,
and to just heal from this terrible humiliation. So she does, but her dad's not happy about that. And it's because he has a big secret. Her parents are harboring a very big secret.
mm,
And um but Ivy goes and and makes these friends, and she becomes quite comfortable in Monterey and does not want to leave. Well, her father's very upset about this. Her mother comes to Monterey,
mm.
and all hell breaks loose in
Oh.
Monterey. And in the meantime, Ivy, um, it, her life is pretty much falling apart, and then further falls apart when these secrets are revealed. And she's been pretty much betrayed by everyone in her life,
Mm,
not just the groom, but she has met a man and his sister that have absolutely changed her life.
mm,
And one's a photographer. That's why it's called Ivy and Stills. She's takes pictures. And then the man is his name is Bo. He has OCD, and Ivy, for some reason, just is able to understand him and help him. And the two of them, these kind of two broken people,
mm,
form a friendship and then beyond. And this kind of strange man shows her that despite all of these crappy things that have happened to her, that she is completely worthy of love.
mm.
And it's through these kind of two broken people that they find that they have a place in the world. And so it was very fun to to write, because sometimes when the whole world seems to let you down, you
Mm.
think that you don't have a place, and you're not worthy. But these two people find this wonderful place within each other, and
Wow.
they absolutely shine. So this book is really about personal triumph, and very fun to write.
Oh,
And
wow.
Ivy, we've never met a heroine like Ivy Talbot.
I love your take on that, really. I love your take on that. Sounds to me to be quite fun. I mean, I've been enjoying your answers to this question so far. They've been quite beautiful, quite interesting, quite compelling, well educative as well. Thank you for sharing. Thank you. And now, one of the most interesting things to me as a writer is to listen to readers' feedbacks. And you may want to agree with me that one of the things that make literature to be complex in its entirety is the fact that it can be interpreted in different ways by different readers based on their opinions. And sometimes the readers might get the message intended by the author. Sometimes they might be close to getting the message. Sometimes they might be far from getting the message, and sometimes they might just, hilariously misunderstand the entire message. And as interestingly fun as it sounds, I would like to ask you, how do you feel when readers interpret your works differently than you intended? How does that make you feel?
Well, it's kind of funny. In the DUZY House of Mourning,
Yeah.
uh, the grand in the DUZY House of Mourning, it's January grows up in a multi-generational home, and
Mm.
her great grandmother is a Holocaust survivor, and they're
Oh.
Polish, and her grandmother, great grandmother, and then her grandfather are Polish, and and there's a they own a mortuary. And one of the
Mm.
things that the mortuary does is after everybody that is prepared there, they live across the street from a park, and in that
Mm.
park is a pinwheel garden, and every body that's prepared in the mortuary receives a pinwheel, and they're planted in the pinwheel garden for that year. And it's a very beautiful kind of ritual that they do, and it comes with this. So anyway, Babka, that's the great grandmother, she was telling um, one of the patrons about the creation of the pinwheel garden, and it came from her brother that died in the Holocaust. That she used to
Mm.
always make pinwheels to distract him,
Mm.
and and the patron was asking her, well, did you live in the ghettos? And she says in the book, she says, no, the ghettos were just for the Jews. I'm a Catholic, but
Wow.
Hitler was full opportunity dictator, and he rounded up the Catholics and the Polish people in general, and he was very abusive. And he either um, if you were able-bodied, you were sent to the camps, and he killed many people, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I got a one-star review,
Oh.
and this girl went off on me saying that oh, way to be anti-Semitic by saying that the ghettos were only for the Jews, and, and
Wow.
she completely missed the point because she didn't know history, and
Yeah.
so that's probably what you're talking about. And I thought, what? And so having missed the point completely
Mm.
because she misunderstood
Yeah.
just history. And so I know what you're talking about. I thought I can't even I don't know where to begin with this review. So sometimes people just miss the point completely, and you
Yeah.
just have to say, well, I'm sorry about that. You know,
That's why I feel like it's a very important question to ask some authors how they feel. Because we all understand that readers interpret their works differently. We can be in
yes.
a cycle, and that's actually what this is something you would find very rampant in a book community, in a book club, either it's on
Yeah.
BookTube, like on YouTube, on anywhere, or in a book club meeting when we have, say,
Right.
we have like 6 members or 10 members coming together to talk about a particular book. One person says something, it's gonna be different from what another person would say, different from what the third person would say, and different from what the fourth person would say. So we tend to interpret works, written works, books differently from one another. We interpret works based on our own experience, how they relate to us, and how we're able to process it from our own brain. And as such, that's why you have diverse reviews. Even the best of books would see, oh, it is a trash, 1 star. Oh, it is horrible. 1 star. Oh, it is amazing. The best book I've ever read this year. 5 star. It's all differs that way. And that's why I think it's very important to ask authors, how do you feel? Because sometimes readers might just misunderstand your message and just carry your book and turn it upside down that you intended. And in such scenarios, how do you feel? It's a very funny and very interesting question. Thank you for
Very true.
sharing.
It's very true. And every author is going to get those varied stars and varied
Yeah.
opinion, and the majority kind of wins out. You're going to get a trend of how people feel about your book. But it depends on people's understanding, education, where they're at in
Mm.
their own emotional journey,
Yeah.
and all those things. And you just have to have a tough skin
Yeah.
as an author,
Yeah.
because you can't please everyone.
Absolutely. Have a tough skin. That is it exactly. And I'd also like to ask you, okay, is there a theme to your writing? Also, what are you known for? What is a K Hancock novel known for? Love your take on that.
Well, I really like I really like to write about messy people in messy situations. And
Mm,
then I really like to see them triumph. And I think if you pick up one of my books, that's probably what you can count on. Um,
mm,
uh, a situation, I love to write about relationships
mm,
and don't I like to write about people in the raw, people that are going through something difficult. And
mm,
and so that's pretty much when whatever you pick up, Dancing on Broken Glass is about cancer and mental health. The DUZY House of Mourning is about a young girl that doesn't really want to know her mother who's got a head injury, but she does, and it ends up beautifully. Ivy and Stills is about a girl who's resenting her parents who were never married and doesn't
mm.
know what to do with herself when she finds out a terrible secret. Um,
Wow.
and and yet here she is. And so I think a theme in my books are worthiness.
Mm,
Everyone is worthy. And that we as human beings are all great big onions. And if we take the time to peel back the layers of the
mm.
people we care about, there is somebody fascinating under there,
Wow.
worth loving, worth caring about, worth pursuing.
Mm,
And, and so, and I get to be the author of those kind of people and characters. And that's what you can count on when you read one of my books. So
mm.
I guess if that's a theme, that's probably what I did.
Wow. I love your answer to that. That is very beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Thank you. And now, I've always been fascinated by how authors, especially novelists like yourself, would sit down and craft long sentences and bring words together in a way that sentence come together from one sentence to another. It come together to make paragraph, and paragraph first one to the second one to the third one, and sometimes in a page you can have like four paragraph. Those paragraph again come together to make a page, and the page keep coming together to make chapters, and the chapters come together to make an amazing big novel. And this always leave me thinking, how do you get the idea to sit down to write this sentence from the sentence stage to the paragraph stage, the pages stage, and to the novel stage? And some people, like yourself, would go off from having one series to the second book, to the third book, and on and on and on. It keep going that way. And it's always surprising and very, shocking as to how writers do all of these things in a way that the story keep transitioning beautifully without leaving anything behind. And this always leave me thinking, how exactly did they got the idea and inspiration to write these works? And as far as writing is concerned, I love to ask you, Kay, how do you get the inspirations and ideas to write your books? Where exactly do they come from? I'm curious.
I don't know how other people do it, but for me, it starts with the characters.
Hmm,
Um,
that's
if I
thrilling.
can if I can find the characters, uh, with Dancing on Broken Glass,
Hmm,
it was a false start for me. It started with three sisters, so they stayed consistent. It was Lucy and Lily and Priscilla, and I
hmm,
knew that one was going to have cancer, and I knew that she was going to have a baby and probably shouldn't. I knew that one couldn't have a baby. That was Lily. And I knew that Priscilla didn't think anybody should have babies. So I
hmm,
had these three sisters, and I wrote the whole story. And I found an agent, and she said, "This is great, but there's something missing." And she sent it back to me, and I thought, hmm. And then I wrote, I rewrote it and threw in. I found my Mickey, my husband. Um, so to me, when you find the characters, they tell the story. But if you don't, I don't know how other people that are more plot driven write
yeah.
their books, but for me, when I have my characters right where they need to be, they propel the story. The same
Hmm,
thing happened with Doozy. I actually found that title first, and because Doozy was such an interesting name to me, I thought, well, where did that come from? That led me to Duzinski. That's a
hmm.
Polish name. And then January Duzinski bloomed in my head, and
Wow.
then her story and her character came to mind,
Hmm,
and her dad, who was Tanik Duzinski, and what happened to him came to mind, and then that family bloomed in my head, and then I knew the story that they would tell me. And so for me, books start with the characters,
Mm,
and it's easy. That's not to say that the story they begin to tell me is the story that it ends up. It takes a lot of polishing, but once the character's in place, the rest comes naturally, a little
mm.
bit more natural.
I love that. I love that. Basically, it implies that you are a sort of a character-driven writer, and I
Yes.
love to base a novel on character. I am a huge fan of characterization. When I read a novel, whatever genre it is, I look out for the characters because to me, and I love it when a writer is able to captivate me with your beautiful characters because that's what keeps a story on going. As for me, we all have different elements to storytelling. Some would say is a plot, some would say is a transition, some would say is a grammatical structure, some would say they're looking out for the characters, some would say they're looking forward to whatever thing they're looking forward to. But as a person myself, I love characterization because that's what I'm looking forward to see what happens to this fun character of mine, to my favorite character, and I don't mind going from first book to second to third to fourth to fifth to sixth. I'm character driven. I love characterization. And to base that on a story tells you how much your audience, your readers, are going to be well invested in your characterization, that they would like to see it carry on from one series to another. Thank you for sharing that. That was quite
Yeah.
great.
That's how I do it. It would be different if I wrote mysteries. I'd have to get
Mm,
the mystery, to get the suspense. I'd have to get the plot in place. But
yeah,
for me, I don't write mysteries, so the characters have to tell my story.
beautiful.
So
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you.
sure.
And I'd like to have your advice, before we wrap up. I'd love to have your advice. What sort of advice do you have for other writers who are still struggling with writing and publishing a book? What would you advise people in this category? And also, where exactly can interested readers get a copy of any of your books?
Okay, well, my advice is to write, number one. And don't give up. Um,
Mm.
I have kind of an interesting story with I was published with Simon and Schuster
Oh,
that years ago with Dancing, Simon and Schuster, and Dancing was published in, I don't know, 8 or 9 other countries, and it was a wonderful success, and it was a wonderful experience. And
oh,
then I had DUZY was also with Simon and Schuster for a while. I had an editor there, and she and I were working feverishly on DUZY, and then
mm,
she left Simon and Schuster, and I was kind of just left on my own devices. Simon and Schuster didn't own that. My editor was gone. They didn't know what to do with me, so uh, I didn't have a publishing company because my
oh,
editor was gone. And so I had to find another agent,
mm,
and that agent liked my book, but she had to market it again. And just at that point, COVID hit. And so anyway, everything shut down, and so for 2 years, it made its way into living rooms because all of
mm,
the publishing houses were closed and editors went home to work. And so not much happened. So I self-published the DUZY House of
mm.
Mourning, and I'm self-publishing Ivy and Stills, and that's been very successful for me.
Wow.
Hard, very hard, but I you as a writer, whoever you are, whatever you're doing, have to believe in yourself. And I my other piece of advice is surround yourself with other writers.
Mm,
You can't write in a vacuum. You have to find people that support you and can tell you when things are wrong with your writing and help you how know how to fix it and keep you honest in your writing. Tell you when things are when you need some help, and
yeah.
and uh, and just you need a community, and then just keep writing and look for the answers, and then
Mm.
learn how to get it out there. Learn how to market yourself. Go on wonderful podcasts with Peter to be able to get your work out there. And then just believe that it can, and just keep at it. And it
Yeah.
might take 1 or 2 or 3 books to get your name out there, but don't give up.
Don't
You
give
don't
up.
give up.
I love that. Don't give up. Thank you so much for lovely
Yeah.
advice, and I'm hoping that viewers, including myself, would love to utilize it. I'm not quite sure if you mentioned what platform the books are available on.
Well, I think for right now, uh, Amazon's probably the best place for it, Amazon.com,
Okay.
barnesandnoble.com, Target. I mean, that's in the United States, Target.com, Walmart.com. Some of my books are available there. My new book coming out is for now is just on Amazon.com. It's on you can get it on Kindle there, and the paperback is there. And then my website is just really tough to remember, khancock.com. And I will send you a book with my name on it if that's what you would like. I'm happy to do that.
Thank you. Thank you. And I
Yes,
left,
so stay in touch.
yeah, yeah. And I left a link in the description part of this interview where interested viewers can get a copy of Ka Hancock books directly on Amazon, on Barnes& and Nobles, on our website, and also on other platform. Also left link to our social media pages for possible followings. So thank you so much, Kay, for accepting the invitation to be featured on P English Literature. I must say it's more than awesome, very wholesome, having this conversation with you around the beautiful titles. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. It's been a delight, and you're a delight.